Grasshopper external. So hopefully you've gotten your grasshopper. We will start with the external features that you need to know. Head, thorax, and abdomen are the major body sections. You can sort of determine where each starts and ends. The head's pretty obvious, and then from the back of the head, the posterior part of the head, all the way to about where the legs are, that's thorax. The rest is abdomen. You'll also note here that you can very clearly see these repeated segments. Again, that's the metamerism, or these are metameres, these repeated segments. The grasshopper itself, as an insect, has an exoskeleton. It is made primarily of chitin, which is hard and protective, yet still slightly flexible. Now, the exoskeleton doesn't actually grow with the animal, so the animal will molt its exoskeleton in order to grow larger, and then for the first short while after molting, it will be very soft and vulnerable until that chitinous exoskeleton hardens back up again. As an insect, you will note 6 legs, pairs, so 3 pairs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total legs. The front legs, the ones that are most cranial, these are the walking legs, forelegs, walking legs, mid legs, and then the large jumping legs, which are the hind legs. The legs are jointed. You can see that pretty clearly, especially on the large jumping leg. Now for the features of the leg itself, you have first the attachment point here. This attachment point is called the coxa. The next small area is the trochanter. Then you have the femur itself. Now, it doesn't mean there's a femur bone inside of it. There's not. Again, this is an exoskeleton, right? So the segment would be analogous to the femur in a vertebrate. So that's why it's called the femur. So femur. Then you have the spines on the back of the tibia here. These spines serve a defensive purpose. You can mess with them a little bit and see that they wouldn't be fun to bite down on that if you were a predator. Finally, here's the tarsus, which essentially means foot. And at the end of the tarsus, you will find a claw, which serves for the gripping, grasping, sort of like sticky ability that allows the grasshopper to grab on to different vegetation as it's moving. So that you could find those at each leg: coxa, trochanter, femur, tibia, tarsus, claw. Okay, on the head itself, you will note the antennae, which are also segmented. They come off very easily, so don't be surprised if your grasshopper doesn't have antennae. These antennae serve for both the sense of touch, and it also has the sense of smell. They contain chemoreceptors to act as a sense of smell in their environment. You also have compound eyes. Those are the large eyes on either side. These are the complex and are made up of many lenses that work together to form an image. They can detect motion and distance, and because they're so large, and if you look, you can see them from the back, the dorsal side, the ventral side. They have a very wide field of vision, and the grasshopper can just about see all around it, which would obviously be a good advantage for avoiding predators. The simple eyes will be hard to find. They're very small, but there will be one here, here, and then right about here. The simple eyes detect light from dark. They don't form images. The mouth itself, if you look closely at it, the parts that you need to know would be this front area here, the labrum, which kind of means lip. Behind that, right here, you have the mandible, which is grinding and cutting. Then you have the maxilla, which will hold the food and help the animal manipulate it. So you can actually open its mouth and get a better look at those. There's moving the labrum back, and then you can see the mandible and the maxilla. There will also be these little projections. Get that back in focus. The little projections are called palps, and they serve a sensing purpose. They also have chemoreceptors, and this is where the animal's sense of taste will come from. Wings. There are 4 wings, 2 sets. You have to use your forceps to carefully lift the forewing in order to see the hind wing behind it. Hind wing, forewing, same on other side. Okay, so the forewing is the larger wing. It's harder, it serves as a protective purpose, and then we'll have some use in flight, primarily with balance. The main structure used for flight would be these hind wings here. Okay, you can take the wings off, and this should expose the tympanic membrane. It's this circular structure that looks like a thin membrane. This is also what we call it in humans, we call it our eardrum. Our tympanic membrane is our eardrum. It serves the same purpose here. So it's sort of like what you would have over the top of a drum, and it is very responsive to vibrations, which would be caused by sound waves. So this is how the animal would detect those sound waves in its environment. On the abdomen itself, if you look at the segments, you can see a little, what appears to be a dot, but is in fact a little hole on each segment. These are the spiracles. This is the entryway for gas, so that carbon dioxide and oxygen can be exchanged with the environment. So that will lead into tubules inside the body, which is part of the respiratory system. Finally, you can determine male versus female by looking at the very caudal end of the abdomen. So the female is going to have this wider V. With this structure that sticks out, you have this shovel-like structure, and that's actually what it's used for. It's called the ovipositor. So the female will use this hard shovel-like structure to dig into the ground in order to dig a cavity, basically, in soil to lay her eggs, and she'll lay her eggs through there. The male, on the other hand, does not have that ovipositor. So you can see the difference there. This is one is a male, no ovipositor. Female, ovipositor. So that would be the external features of the grasshopper that you need to know.